Okay, well, welcome all to our council meeting of April 12th, 2022. The time is 1 p.m. Welcome council, welcome staff, and to those of you who may be tuned in via live stream or our YouTube. So today we have our meeting set in front of us. I'll call the meeting to order, and at this time, then I will read the land acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge that the township of Asphodel-Norwood is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Bosalay, and Georgina Islands First Nations. We respectively acknowledge that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. So I'll ask at this moment for a moment of silent reflection from council so that we may reflect upon our duties of today as councillors. Thank you. I'll ask any councillor at this time if they have any declaration of pecuniary interest to say so now or at time of topic. All right, seeing no hands, thank you. Looking for a motion then to approve today's agenda for April 12th, 2022, and that it be approved as circulated. Motioned by Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? And that's carried, thank you. I need a motion then to approve the minutes, the council meeting minutes of March 22nd and the public meeting minutes of March 22nd of this year, and that they be adopted as presented. Councillor Archer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? And that's carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes? All right, thank you. Seeing no hands. And on to the consent agenda then. So this is correspondence for information. We have C1, C2, C3 in the minutes of the Special Projects Committee, Asphodel-Norwood Cultural and Heritage Committee, and that the recommendation is that the Township of Asphodel-Norwood approve the consent agenda as circulated. Motioned by Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Is there any discussion on any of these items in the consent agenda? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Thanks, Mayor, and through you. I guess this just is a question for everybody for the education DC charges. I had sent a thing out to everyone. I think Roger and I both got an email on the information session that was going to happen. And then we filled out a Google or Doodle poll for the dates. And I never heard anything back, but maybe my dates that I could make it didn't correspond with anybody else's. So I just wondered if that meeting happened, if anybody else heard, because I didn't hear anything and I didn't see a link to recording for that meeting. So just a question out there, maybe for Candace or anybody else who may have taken part.
Yes, I took part in a meeting with the KPR school board and their consultants. I filled out a doodle poll and then received a link to attend the meeting. It was on the Monday before they approved on the Tuesday.
Okay,
so,
I can't remember which date I filled out, so maybe it didn't correspond with the time, so I didn't even get a notice. And the next thing I knew, it was approved. So I was just curious as to when that happened.
I don't believe that there was any, that I noticed any political officials on the call.
Okay.
What I noticed, it was all CAOs and chief building officials on the call that I attended.
Okay.
There wasn't any members of council. So maybe it was a separate link that they did, but there was no members of council that I was aware of on the call that I attended.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns on the consent agenda? All right. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out on the Cultural and Heritage Committee report, if anyone had a chance to read the summary Lives On of kind of the history of what was the Historical Society, which is now the Heritage and Cultural Committee. If you'll notice that in 1992, some of the founding members, Doris Stevens and also Brenda Bullock, still are 30 years later. So I just thought that was significant to point out. And I don't know if anyone else noticed it in the reading, but it's a long time to volunteer for a committee.
Yeah, it is.
No, I didn't catch that, but there was a lot of names on there from a lot of past history in Asphodel-Norwood. So job well done. Thank you. Anyone else, please? No? All right. So it's we have a motion. It's duly seconded. All in favor then, please. And that's carried. Thank you. There's no delegations or presentations today. So then we're on to staff and committee reports. And R1 would be Kyle Beacock, our Water and Wastewater Operations Manager. And this report is regarding our Norwood Drinking Water Systems Inspection results. Kyle, the floor is yours, sir.
All right, good afternoon, and through you, Mayor. This is a report, based on our Norwood Drinking Water Inspection results from last fall. And we're just looking for the council to receive this report for information. So on October 5th, the MECP conducted an announced inspection of the Norwood Drinking Water System. This was a detailed inspection. So it included, she came into site and she inspects all the facilities as well as a detailed review, looks at our trending on SCADA and compliance data, maintenance, all that kind of stuff. So typically these happen on the annual basis. The last one was October 8th. So she was almost a year to the day. So the township received 100% compliance inspection rating on this inspection, 0% risk rating. There was one recommendation, a best management practice recommendation received, and that was with regards to putting a procedure together for routine inspection and maintenance of the standpipe. There was no issues with it not having been done, as there was exterior work done in 2017 and interior inspection work in 2018. So we'll look at creating a standard operating procedure kind of once we see how the new standpipe is going to kind of be integrated into the system. So yeah, pretty straightforward, not a lot to this report. I'm sure you've had a look at the attachments. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Kyle. Council, any questions, comments, concerns, accolades, anything? Deputy Mayor Burke, please.
Yeah, as usual, again, great job on the compliance rating. Always great to see. I do have a question, and I'm going to blow this because I don't know how to pronounce it, but haloacetic acid and trihalomethane, is that part of the disinfection, or is that a naturally occurring thing in water? What is that?
So those are the THMs and the HAAs. I'll shorten it up for you there.
Thank you.
Anyways, so they are disinfection byproducts. They're what happens when you add chlorine to the water, and when they react with certain organics, these byproducts are created. So yeah, and there's actually talk, I'm surprised I haven't done it yet, about lowering the values quite significantly for what are kind of expected in water. So I expect to see that coming down the pipe in the next year or two.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Kyle, again, good report. It was good to get 100%, that's for sure. I did answer partially on the standpipe, but I was just wondering, when you do put in that standard operating procedure, what would be involved, and would it be like a cost involved to do that as well?
To do the actual activity?
Yes.
Yeah, there will be for sure. Depending on the configuration we go with the new standpipe, if it's taken right out of service, and there's no say we don't have a dual standpipe, we have elected to get rid of the old one, then there'll be some sort of cost associated with setting up a pressurized system in order for that standpipe to be taken right offline.
Okay, thank you.
Typically, the anodes for the cathodic protection system would be replaced at that time, so that would be another cost, probably in the 10 to 12,000 range, and whatever kind of cleaning and stuff had to be done at that time.
Okay.
So an anode is a particular metal that will get eroded away faster than the inside of a tank, I guess is what an anode
Yeah,
is.
typically zinc they use, but yeah. So, but it will be like a 10-year maintenance. So there'll be lots of years to kind of throw some money aside for budgeting purposes.
Anyone else have questions, comments, concerns? All right, I just want to say thank you, Kyle, to you and your department for a job well done. Thank you very much. So at this time, then, I would need the recommendation for the motion is that we accept this report for the system inspection results for information. We accept. Motion by Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, R2, this is has to do with our gravel crushing tender results. Candace, you're going to handle this for us today. Peter's out on some courses, and floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so on the Manager of Public Works behalf, I am going to present R2. So annually, the township does release a tender for its gravel crushing and gravel placement activities. Again, 2022 is no different than any other year. You can see in the staff report the roads that are going to be addressed with the annual gravel crushing program. So Asphodel third line brings you some work on a couple sections of the 5th, McGuire Road, Humphreys line, Asphodel 7th section of that, McCarthy's Point, Rogers Lane, and Drysdale Road. So a lot of part down in the southern part of the township. As council knows, it's on a cycle. So the gravel roads, we did the biggest part of the township last year, the eastern section. So thank goodness, based on the tender results, that it wasn't the scope of work and the number of roads that we addressed in 2021. That is for sure. So we did have 2 provisional items in the tender, which was to crush and stockpile 1,000 metric tons of 2-inch minus, and then if we want it, we sometimes add in there what the cost would be for a dump truck rental, and you see the provisional item in there as well. The staff report is recommending that we're not moving forward with either provisional item, so we will not be stockpiling 2-inch minus, and we will be using township forces to do the scope of work that requires a dump truck. We will not be taking part in those provisional items. The 2022 operating budget had $45,000 in it. The cost for the gravel crushing and placement program for 2022 is approximately $7,000 over that, which is $52,000. We have been reaching out to our neighboring municipalities. Of course, as traditionally seen, we get 1 tender and 1 bid, and that's kind of what you're left with. And ultimately, the decision is to not move forward and spend the $7,000 difference. What that does, of course, is put the gravel crushing and gravel placement of our gravel roads, which is a good chunk of our township, behind. We could retender, but based on the results that we've received from companies to the east of us that would put in a tender, we did receive a fax from them saying that they would not be placing a bid this year, which we've seen that the last couple of years, whether it's just workload, area in which the work's being done. Again, so legally we have 2 options. 1, we either retender, which I highly suspect that we're going to receive the same results, or 2, if we choose not to move forward and spend the $7,000 over the budget, which we're kind of seeing across the board, I suspect you're going to see our budget challenged based on the market across 2022, gas prices, diesel prices, the inability to get steel, what's happening in Russia and the Ukraine is affecting imports, exports, and then of course, even those companies or organizations that are not experiencing those pressures are inadvertently experiencing those pressures. So I think across the board, this is going to unfortunately be the story. So it's going to be up to township staff and council to balance that and what work we're going to move forward with, what work we can't, where we can pull it from in budget, or whether we pull from reserves. It is the manager's and I's opinion that the $7,000 will be eaten throughout the operational budget. We will claw back the $7,000 in operations. We have a good chunk of the year. We got 3/4 of the year to be able to do that. So that is why there's not a recommendation to automatically pull the $7,000 from reserves out of the gate. So I'll leave it for council for any questions.
Yeah, good report. Bad news, but good report. Thank you. Any questions, council? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
That was my comment as well. I think as we go through the year, we're going to see increases, and I think there will be decisions to be made down the road. 26 or 28% is a bit much, but we can't change the bids that come in, so I get that's just a comment. A question I have: do we have any gravel left over from in the pit from last year, or is it all used up at this point?
We do have some, but the spring was really hard on it with all the washouts and all the rains and the freeze ups and whatnot. So there is some, but it will not get us through. No.
Okay. That was just a question. And I guess another comment is, I guess we are fortunate in that we do have our own pit and that we can do our own crushing. We don't have to buy it outright. So, compared to a lot of municipalities, we are fortunate that way, even though the costs have gone up considerably. We're probably in a lot better shape than some municipalities are who have to buy everything. That's just a comment. I'll leave it up to the rest of council.
Councillor Walsh, you had your hand up?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Again, just kind of reiterating what Deputy Mayor Burt said is, challenging. It's a big increase, but also understanding the kind of the situation. If we go back out to retender, that it may not be really any different anyway. So I think we just learned to have to accept that. I think from my perspective, and I know we will do this, Peter and his team is, we just need to really keep a handle on measuring that what we're getting. We're only paying for what we get, and we're not paying for material that we didn't get. So I think I know when I spoke to Candace that we do get all the waste. I think it's important that we keep track of those, which I'm sure we have, like we have every other year. But in a year when we got a big increase, we just need to really be careful, keep an eye on those waste slips and make sure that we're getting what we pay for, and we continue to proceed. We definitely need gravel to put on our road, so we have to move it forward.
Yep. Good comments. Candace, please.
Yes. And I just want to reiterate to council that there's never been any concerns in the past in regards to what we pay for is what we get. We receive the waste slips on a daily basis, so we know what's going on the roads. We know what's being belly dumped on the roads. We also know historically how much it takes to put gravel on different lengths in certain roads. So we would know, and we do the same sections of the township at a time. So this section of road, we have done this exact complement of road 3, 4, 5 times in a circular motion. So if all of a sudden the waste slips are significantly different than they were the last 3 times we've done it, we know how much, I guess my point is we know how much gravel it takes to do each section of the township that goes out. And there hasn't been any large deviations. That would be the first telltale sign. And there hasn't been any huge deviations. And so if that was occurring, it would have had to have been occurring over the last decade or more.
Okay, great. Thank you, Candace.
Welcome.
Any other comments, concerns, questions? Councillor Archer, please.
Yeah, also I was going to say, I know 26% is a fair hike, but I know in the industry there right now, a lot of people are charging 30%. So I think we're being treated fair as far as the percentage goes on the increase.
Very good. Thank you for that info.
I agree.
All right. Well, no more questions then. I guess I'm looking for the recommendation for the motion is that we receive this report and that you are able to authorize the mayor, myself, and the clerk to execute the agreement between Grain Brothers and the township of Asphodel-Norwood for 2022 gravel crushing in the amount of $52,000. Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. Any other questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor then, please. And that's carried. Thank you. All right, Candace, R3. This report is regarding a procedural bylaw update, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So as council is aware, as Section 238 of the Municipal Act states, a municipal council shall have a bylaw in place that governs and lays out the operations of a council, whether that's notice provisions, how we conduct meetings, when we conduct meetings, how and where, et cetera, et cetera. I've always been a firm believer that if we're going to be making a change, that change mirrors the operations and how council is governing its operations. That is why, procedurally, if we need to make changes to this document once a year, if it needs to come back twice to make updates, which I suspect it probably will need to be updated again, then that's the case. But I don't want to move forward and change how we are conducting council meetings, because as of right now, we are fully on the Zoom platform. The procedural bylaw needs to reflect any changes and has to reflect that in advance. I'm a bit of a stickler when it comes to this, and other clerks may allow things to move forward and let the bylaw catch up, but I prefer to have it in place before we make any operational changes. So with that being said, we took the opportunity. There is some housekeeping items that the deputy clerk and I have been tracking as we go along. And so we've been saving them as housekeeping items. So if we needed to make any sort of operational change, we can take that opportunity to make the housekeeping amendments at the same time. So that being said, I will take council through the bylaw and to the suggested revisions that we're asking council to consider. You can see overall there is a new numbering system applied to the document just for ease of use. Article 1 does include an enhanced section of definitions. So they're just definitions that were not included in our previous version, all the way from the CAO down to point of privilege. If council has any questions on those definitions, of course, I can answer those, but I think they're pretty self-explanatory. We did update the definition of electronic participation to be more reflective as to what is happening on our council meetings and the platform in which we use. Article 2, we added local board meetings to the wording in Article 2, Section 2.1. Again, it's important to realize that that excludes the Police Services Board and the library boards. They have their own acts that govern those, but all other boards and committees appointed by council are to be governed and conduct their meetings based on this document. Section 2.2, there needs to be a reference document. So obviously, we hope we're never in this situation. And to date, knock on wood, I've never been in that situation as a clerk. But if there ever is an operational challenge that the document does not, the procedural bylaw does not speak to, then we would refer to the Roberts Rules of Order, which I keep a copy here on my desk if that situation was to ever arise. And then, of course, the final decision then would be made by the clerk as to how we are going to deal with that situation, how we're going to move forward. 2.4 and 2.5, again, it's just simply some changes in how in language, just things that we've noticed that other procedural bylaws have included. And again, if the bylaw was to ever be challenged, it enforces our legal position. Article 3 updated the location of where in-person council meetings will be held, and that will be the Millennium Room at the Community Center at 88 Alma Street. Again, that decision has been made for a couple of reasons. We are struggling with the acoustics with the OWL cameras that will be recording our in live person council meetings. And so we are able to shrink the width and length of the Millennium Room with acoustic panels that are on wheels and fold, and we'll be able to open them and kind of make it so that the camera is bouncing off these acoustic panels. These cameras are built for rooms that are obviously much smaller than a Millennium Room or a town hall. Obviously, traditionally council chambers are not those sizes. And in the town hall, the height of the ceilings would prove to be another challenge, and we can't make that room shorter. with any sort of panels, at least not in a way that we're able to take up and take down with ease. That is what we would, and that is obviously what we would need. So the Millennium Room for the time being, until permanent chambers have been kind of allocated. Hopefully we see one of those again in her future. But until that point, we are recommending the Millennium Room. It states that meetings obviously can be held electronically. Probably the biggest provision in the procedural bylaw is what I'm going to read out next, and that is recommends that council consider holding an electronic meeting on the second Tuesday of the month and an in-person meeting at the aforementioned location on the fourth Tuesday of the month. During the months that only one meeting is held, that meeting shall be held in person. This provision can be changed by the head of council if the need should arise, with appropriate notice given when able. So again, this is circling back. I do believe this would likely be transitional. It could be temporary if so needed, but it is a transition from a permanent Zoom platform to an in-person platform. A couple of things. There is software that we are navigating our way through. Again, the challenges of a large space is proving to be a bit difficult. So when we transition to in-person meetings, at this point in time, a person could not attend by Zoom and in person at the same meeting. So when we go to live in-person meetings, the OWL cameras will record the meetings and they will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. It'll record it, but it won't look like how we look at the screen right now. It'll record us in our configuration in person live. We'll ensure that everybody's heard, but it's not going to be necessarily always zooming in on the person speaking and being able to pick up Zoom and the Zoom person and the in-person meeting and having it look very similar to what the public is used to seeing at this point in time. And the reason for that challenge is the sheer space. The rooms are just so large. We looked into getting more than 2 OWL cameras. They are Bluetooth to each other, which is proving to be when a large space and the signals are bouncing off everywhere. We can't add more than 2. LR Brown, our audio and visual consultants, are saying that no, 2 is kind of the end of the road. They have to sit on the exact same height. So we've got the height figured out. The tripods are out the door, trying to get them exactly the same. So we've got them on desks. It's just proving to be more challenging than I think it needs to be. We're trying to solve something. We don't have a permanent chamber room. We do have neighboring municipalities that have a permanent chambers and have spent in excess of $100,000 setting up their chambers in order to ensure that they're able to do that hybrid approach. So as an administrator, I need to find the line of best fit and how much resources and how much time are we going to spend on this. So the recommendation as an interim solution is to go 1 meeting a month live. That will be recorded. Everyone that attends that meeting will be live. That is staff, council, everyone. The second meeting, the recommendation is to be held in electronic platform. So that'll be Zoom. This way, a resident who wishes to come and speak to council in person has the opportunity to do so. If we have consultants that are traveling, obviously we have seen the cost effectiveness of having that person attend virtually. So the consultant, the engineer, whatever it may be, will be able to attend the Zoom meeting, the second meeting of the month. If there's only 1 meeting in the month, which we do have 4 months that we have traditionally been seeing that, then that would be an in-person meeting. It would not be a Zoom meeting unless council decides otherwise. If we have a couple of big delegations and big reports coming up that require someone to Zoom in from Toronto, maybe it makes more sense to have that meeting electronically. Again, proper notice given to the public and to everyone is the key. And as long as we're communicating how we're meeting and when we're meeting, I think that this procedural bylaw will allow the flexibility that we need in order to conduct business in the new world in which we live in. I do honestly believe we'll see potentially full in-person meetings. But again, there is a section of your constituency that is more engaged on the Zoom platform. You have other members of the public that would prefer council to meet all in person, which we've traditionally seen no one attends. So we have seen an increase in participation based on the electronic YouTube platform. So it's important to continue that forward. It's also exceptionally important for your staff to not spend 9 hours a day on a council meeting. So we are setting up at 9 a.m. for a 1 o'clock meeting and dealing with IT issues the entire time. This morning, I sat in on a meeting from 9 to 11 a.m. When we go to in-person live meetings, that will not be allowed. That will not happen. The other part of this is the Millennium Room will also be available for that other Tuesday morning in the month. So it's building in flexibility, trying to ensure that the bylaw is compliant with legislation and that we are actually conducting ourselves the way our procedural bylaw says we can. And it ensures that council is able to participate in person or Zoom. And then if a member is going to, like today, we have 2 members of council at a conference. So maybe that would make sense to have that council meeting, in Zoom, and then everyone is still allowed to attend. So I think having some flexibility built in is important. I understand everyone wants to put the pandemic in the rearview mirror. Considering we're in the 6th wave, I don't necessarily think that we're there yet. And this is a transition step that will ensure, and we'll see how it goes. Maybe everyone will love it. Maybe it's a good hybrid approach that everyone is able to live with. Then we'll take a look at it. It's not written in blood and stone. It can be changed. But staff is greatly recommending that we take this interim step. Let's check out the Millennium Room. Let's see how it goes. Let's use these OWL cameras without adding the increased pressure of that hybrid model when it just does not seem to be being kind, we'll put it that way, to us. But we're too far in to turn the ship around completely. So we need to just switch courses. And as an administrator, I need to make the best recommendation for staff and council and the public. And as of right now, this seems to be the line of best fit.
Thanks, Candace. It's pretty hard to argue with what you're saying there all along. That was quite in depth, and I think you covered a lot of ground there. Questions, comments, concerns, council? Something here that we may want to discuss or talk about at this time? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
I keep waiting for somebody to jump in first, but nobody does. So,
There's a delay.
No, I think it makes sense. All the way along, we've done, gone through COVID and taking it one step at a time. And I think this makes sense to take it one step at a time. I think let's admit, I think we'd all like to meet in person, but I think this is a good step. And as Candace said, this isn't written in stone. We can take a look at this at any time. And chances are there's going to be some new faces around this table come November, December. And it's fair that the new council gets to take a look at this as well. And no, I think it's fair. And with the technology challenges, software challenges, and all of that, we don't want to dive in head first with in-person meetings and then have to backtrack all the way back to square one. So I think it makes sense the way we're going about it, but certainly with the open door approach that we can take a look at it at any time. That's just a comment. I don't have any questions.
Good comment. Councillor Archer, please.
I just have a comment. I think it's a great idea to try this because that'll give us, like, once a month we'll be in person. So more of our meetings will be in person than the Zoom meetings. And I think people will appreciate it. Every month we'll have an in-person meeting so they can come for the people that want to attend. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Anyone else have comments at this time? Councillor Walsh.
Sorry, just echoing what has been said by Deputy Mayor Burt and Councillor Archer. I think this is a really good line of best fit. Yes, we'd all like to be live all the time, but understanding that for some people, Zoom really works. We've had good participation in Zoom meetings for those people who like to be there live, and we're really now offering to our residents both options to be able to come to a council meeting. So I really do great first fit. And as you said, we'll try this. And if it doesn't work like we would like it to work, including residents and ourselves and staff, as Candace says, not written in stone, and we can make adjustments. But I think it's a great first fit. I do agree with Candace that we really don't want to have staff spending all day at the Millennium Room, spending half the day in the morning just prepping for a meeting. That's really not their time. And I think what we've got put together is a really good fit.
Good comment. Anyone else? Councilor Ward, please.
Yes, I think the hybrid approach of one meeting live, one via Zoom. My only question, it's a technical one, with the owls. Why can't we just use the Zoom format in the same room that we are in? Like, it would still record each person. Is that not feasible? Like, still use the format that we're using here, everyone in their home, but in the Millennium Room, is there just not enough Wi-Fi, or what would be the reason that they'd have to go to an owl format when we can use those electronically when we're not there? Just
So we tried this.
okay.
We tried this. So the key would be, if not everyone is on mute, so all the laptops will be very close together, and all of the Zoom signal is what we can figure out is the reason is all the signals are very close together. So unless everybody who is not speaking is on mute, they all squeal. So it's a high-pitched squeal. So we kept moving them further and further and further apart to see how far apart we have to be with the mute off. So it does work, but everyone would have to be at least 12 to 15 feet apart to be able to do that with the sheer number of people. So we would have maybe 8. I mean, we've seen people on here, we've had 10 or 12 people on here. If everyone's muted, unless the person who's talking every single time, it's high-pitched squeals. So right now I'm looking on my screen and I only have 2 people muted and I have 5 people unmuted. You wouldn't even be able to hear me talk. It just the feedback and the squeals is too loud. But we did try that. We had that thought. But I just think that, I mean, we could try to train ourselves that everyone was on mute, but I think it would prove to be very frustrating very, very quickly, because we're still having to be reminded to go off mute when we talk. So after 2 years, I don't know what it would take to train us to get to that point. But it's a great thought, and we went down that road first.
I thought probably I just wanted an explanation because you're having so many problems with the owl cameras. So that was the only reason I asked. I'm in favor of what's being proposed. Thank you.
All right, that's pretty well all of council. I reiterate the same thing. I think it's a good first start. Get back into person, but still stay the hybrid. And like it was mentioned before, 2 councillors, not naming any, that they may be out of town at a convention and still be able to take part in township business. So Candace, just to help me out here, the recommendation then, this is going to have to come back. Like, we're going to send this out to the public and have this come back at our next meeting, I guess. Is that the right?
Yes, if you don't mind, I'll finish just quickly going through. I ended at 3.2. There is a few other articles here that I think council should have the opportunity to listen to my explanation, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
And then I can describe kind of next steps.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So 3.9 provides language if a meeting needs to be canceled. So right now, our procedural bylaw, for instance, if there's an exceptional circumstance, an emergency, unsafe weather, et cetera, when we're on Zoom, maybe that's a decision that's made. You know, there is an emergency, et cetera. If the meeting can still take place, this allows language that the mayor can make a change, go to electronic participation, cancel the meeting altogether, and how that's going to take place and what the notice provisions are. 3.10 is just housekeeping language. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what we're asking for there. Section 5, again, housekeeping language. We're just adding the community boards located now outside. With COVID, that's changed the locations of where we're providing notice. So this, again, is ensuring that the procedural bylaw follows what we physically do on a day-to-day. Article 8, again, just speaks to electronic participation, ensuring that there's flow to the document. Article 15, the same, housekeeping. By all means, if there's any questions that council has in regards to any of the housekeeping language, please let me know. Article 16, I want to clarify that Article 16.5, we are suggesting that we're moving from noon to 4:30. I believe in the draft it says 4:30 p.m. noon. So I apologize. On that error, I didn't catch it, but we are going from noon to 4:30 is the recommendation. Article 19, updated with a bit stronger language to address repeat delegation requests on the same topic. Just to ensure that council isn't in a situation where no new information is available. Again, there's some discretion of the clerk in this scenario. So if there's a situation where brand new information is available, that could turn a decision, then potentially we could deviate from this provision. But unless that is the case, it just protects council from having to have repeat delegations on the same topic that are going to result with the same outcome. Suggests that delegates and presenters appear in person or on a Zoom meeting such as this. Again, this is to avoid pre-recorded presentations where at all possible, because we have struggled with that during the pandemic. And Article 22, again, just some updated housekeeping language. All in all, we have ensured that the document is compliant with the Municipal Act, specifically sections 238 and 239. And it will reflect operations, at least for the interim. Because it is changing, it's more than housekeeping. Traditionally, we're just doing housekeeping, wordsmithing, definitions, etc. We wouldn't do an intent to adopt notice, but because we're actually changing procedurally where we conduct meetings, how this hybrid approach, etc., I do believe that it's prudent to put out an intent to adopt notice. So just the public is aware that we are updating the procedural bylaw and there will be changes associated with that. But I think we can very quickly get that notice out up on the website. Tomorrow it'll go in one round of the community press, and then we can bring it back as long as council is agreeable at the next meeting of council. And that's all I have unless council has any comments or questions.
Council, anything further that you'd like to ask us, comments?
No.
All right, so then the recommendation then today, Candace, then would be that we receive this report for information, and that we would direct staff to advertise the intention to adopt an updated procedural bylaw by our next meeting of April 26th. And further, that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood directs staff to include the draft procedural bylaw with the notice as presented. Is that correct? Okay, that's your motion, Council. Councillor Archer, thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Burt. Is there any other comments to the motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Council, on that one. And thank you, staff, for your hard work on that. There's a lot to take in, and job well done. All right, R4, Candace, then our CAO Clerk Treasurer. This report, R4, would be naming of the Mill Pond Forest Trails. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So currently at the Mill Pond Forest Trails, we do have 3 trails that are now fondly referred to as the Yellow Trail, Blue Trail, and Orange Trail. Now that the Lions Club has partnered with the Trails Committee, we felt we're updating the signage. Township staff felt that it was a good opportunity to maybe update those names to be a bit more reflective of our township and the history of it versus just colors. So what the township staff did, we did release a call for name suggestions, as our asset naming policy says, even with elements of an asset, which we do handle slightly different than the naming of the asset itself. Naming of an element of an asset, we still go out for public consultation. So we had great feedback. As council can see, we did receive 46 name suggestions, which the community was excited about this initiative, which was great to see. Township staff then took a look at all 46 names that were brought forward, held them to the test of the policy. So there's some pretty clear outlying parameters that are spelled out in our policy, such as, historical significance, if they're named after a specific person, then it has to be posthumously. So after they are no longer with us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So township staff then narrowed the list based on the policy, and all of those names are listed in the staff report. In order to assist council, staff did narrow the list that did make it through the policy test and are proposing 3 names. So Trillium Trail, Asphodel Trail was definitely put forward a fair few number of times. Because of Asphodel Park and because of Asphodel Wharf, we did put the names out to emergency services, and they did come back, especially if someone was to place an emergency call from 911 until we go to the GIS system. There is concerns. They like us to avoid any names such as that, is that closely. So in order, similar suggestions were brought forward from, instead of Asphodel Trail, to put forward Trillium Trail. There was lots of recommendations for Keeler Mills Trail and Northwoods Trail. Again, Joseph Keeler, who owned the original mill in Norwood, and then of course named the town of Norwoods after Northwoods. So I think those 3 names are very reflective of the township as a whole, and takes in the formerly known Asphodel Township as well as the village of Norwood, and is reflective of both entities and its historical significance. So all 3 names hold up to the test of the policy and hold up to the test of emergency services. So I put it forward to council, and of course, if council has any other recommendations or considerations, it's your decision. So staff will support whatever you decide.
Okay, council, I think lots of thought has gone behind this, but everything looks pretty straightforward. But is there any comments, concerns, questions, or things that you'd like to see changed up? Who'd like to start this time? Councillor Walsh, thank you.
I'll jump in before Deputy Mayor Burt this time. I think, it's great to see engagement from the community. I like the 3 names we come down with. They have significance to our township and the village. So I'm fully supportive of the names that have been proposed.
Thank you. Councillor War, I seen your hand up.
I don't have to comment on. I think Councillor Walsh just said what I would like to say. So yes, the names are well chosen. I like the names. Significant, really well done.
Thank you. Councillor Archer, did you have anything you want to say?
Well, I just agree with what Councillor Walsh said. With the names are good. They're excellent. So.
And last but not least, Deputy Mayor Burt. You're good to go too? All right, sounds great. Good job, staff, on that one. So then the recommendation for the motion then would be that we receive this report for the Mill Pond Forest Trails for information, and that we approve the following trail names for the current Mill Pond Forest Trail systems, 1 being Trillium Trail, 2nd being Keeler Mills Trail, and the 3rd Northwoods Trail. Motion by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor War. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Very good. All right, next then would be R5, Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer. This is regarding the management action list. Thank you, Candace.
Thank you, Mayor. So in front of council, you can see coming up first quarter reports, believe it or not. Kind of crazy that 2022 seems to be going by so quickly. First quarter reports, DWQMS, again, Kyle will be back to deliver that as we've had our management review on the program. Municipal modernization program, we have tendered that project twice. We have received 1 bid twice, and it's way over the provincial allocation that we've been given for funding for that project. Again, as I said, it's the story of the year. So not really sure what we're going to do. I'm communicating with the province on it. So potentially you could see something on the 26th if I have communication back from MMAH. I'm trying to get a provincial decision or direction before May 6th when the writ drops. Stop sign bylaw for Norwood Park Phase 1 and Phase 2. We did send the draft bylaw out to all of the residents, got all sorts of feedback back, of course, on both sides of the coin, some wanting to see different things, some loving what we're proposing. And of course, so the manager and I are going to do a walkthrough up there and just ensure that we're comfortable with 100% what's being proposed, but we are happy with the engagement from the residents up there, and we felt it was important to take that step. We should have the skateboard expansion tender results in for the design build. So really looking forward. I don't have any tidbits for you today, but when that tender closes, really looking forward to see that. Hopefully I don't have to be sitting down when I open them. And sidewalk tender results will not be coming forward on April 26th. The tender may not even be released by then. We're running into some hiccups with MTO and some other things. So all of a sudden they want a detailed engineered design for a sidewalk replacement, which is new and for my opinion, overkill. I'll keep you posted on the approach we're taking on that one, but I suspect you won't see that till May. I'll take any questions of council.
Council, any questions? Usually pretty thorough, this one. All right, seeing no hands then, the recommendations that we accept this report with any of the revisions that the CAO has made or any members of council. So motion by Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor Archer. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Candace. All right, correspondence for action then. C4, City of Waterloo, and this report is regarding Ontario must build it right the first time. What's council's wish on this? The recommendation is that we receive for information and with support or not. Who'd like to speak? Deputy Mayor Burt, please.
Well, I think we'd have to receive this because it makes a lot of sense, but when you're starting to change building code, I would want more information on it and maybe some information from the building department. It makes sense that this is the direction we are going in with net zero solutions, but I don't know enough about it to say support. So I would say receive, but it's certainly open to everyone else's interpretation.
Okay, is there a seconder on that then? Councillor War, is there any other discussion on the matter?
No, it's good.
Is there anything, Candace, you'd like to say on that matter at all? We've made the motion? No? Okay, motion's duly made and seconded. No comments or concerns, all in favor? That's carried. Motion is for you to receive. Councillor liaison reports. Anyone have anything they'd like to bring up today? Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you. Through you, I just wanted to give an update on what's happening with the Cultural and Heritage Committee. On June 4th, we are hosting an event at the Heritage Center in Westwood from 10 to 2, and June 5th, 10 to 2, celebrating Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee. We've been constructing displays, pictures, newspaper accounts, marking the Queen's 70th year on the throne. We are working in partnership with other committees and groups to make a wonderful product and weekend. This will also be our summer display, and we will be posting the open hours in a couple more weeks of what we feel comfortable having. The second thing from the Cultural and Heritage Committee, our first historical talk and gathering is slated for Tuesday, June 14th, and it's at the Norwood Town Hall. Our guest speaker is going to be Kathy Elmhurst-Storing, and she has completed a book called Life and Legacy about Ruth Birdsall Elmhurst, and I think that will be of interest to many people in our community. Updates and media release will be provided in advance of the talk. And we met this past weekend at the Heritage Center and a cleaning bee and rearrange some of the displays. And so we hope that people will come out when we can reopen June 4th. So that's my liaison report. And yes, Melanie has a coffee.
My favorite question. Thank you. Anyone else have anything underneath? Councillor Archer, please.
I just have one question for the CAO. Is June the 4th, is that our Trails Day too?
Yes, I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is Trails Day. We'll have to chat about how those two events will coincide.
Okay. No problem. We're having a meeting on the 14th, so.
Yeah, I'll put it in Prudence's ear to make sure that, you know, everything is, that, you know, people have the opportunity to go to both events.
Okay.
Yeah, leave that one with me. Well, I'll make sure that the two committees are, the two chairs, at least of the committees, are chatting to see if we can come up with something.
For sure we can.
I think so.
Anyone else
I
have
mean-
anything? All right, I'm sorry, did I cut somebody off there? No. All right, very good. CAO clerk treasurer's list then, please, Candace.
Thank you, Mayor. So just wanted to let council know that May 1st, there's going to be an announcement and of the funding for the Asphodel-Norwood expansion. It'll be the launch day of the 2023 hockey bill bid for Asphodel-Norwood. It is going to be the last day that the ice is in. As soon as this event is over, the ice is going to come out. It's rented right up till the Saturday, April 30th. We are keeping it in for May 1st. There's going to be family events on the ice, township staff, Minister Puccini's office, as well as reaching out to minor sports, et cetera. We're all working together to make sure that that is a big event. It's being thrown together relatively quickly, of course, because we're on provincial timelines with this, but we're going to try to put something together that the community can enjoy. So if council can at all keep Sunday, May 1st, kind of slated for a couple of hours to pop over to the community center and take part in the festivities. We are looking at, there's going to be obviously banners and balloons, and launching the hockey bill bid is going to be a big deal, along with what Minister Puccini has to tell us. So lots of exciting things coming there. Stay tuned. You'll obviously get some details. Welcome night. So we have had obviously phase 2 and phase 3 of the Norwood Park subdivision, as well as the subdivision on Birch Street, and lots of other new residents that have joined our township since we hosted the first welcome night prior to the pandemic. So the second welcome night, which we should be on round 3 by now, but is slated for Monday, June 20th, and it will be held in the Millennium Room. And again, it's going to be welcoming all the new residents for the township to talk about all of the wonderful organizations that we have, all of the township services. They can meet one another, they can meet us. Just a nice welcoming night for all of the new residents. So that's been slated there. Again, there'll be additional details coming soon. Showcase Asphodel-Norwood planning is well underway. I did meet with the community programming coordinator this morning. So we have gone through a skeletal framework to assist the special projects committee with that event. So that is moving forward. I believe it is slated for Saturday, June 11th. So that event is moving forward. Banners. I did want to just kind of piggyback onto Councillor War's update on the Culture and Heritage Committee. So we, as promised, we are adding banners each year. So we are adding, I believe it's 14 banners, which is taking us out to all of the hydro pools that were allowed to put banners on at the entrances to the village. We have included a cultural and heritage banner that has a picture of the facility and the Historical Society's contact information on the bottom. We did not put the address of the facility because we didn't want to direct a bunch of people there with varying opening hours. So we just direct people to how they can contact, and obviously the opening hours I would assume would be on that. So it's a beautiful banner. I just approved it this morning, and it's going to be added to the complement of banners coming in each direction. And I think that's it for me, Mayor. I think that's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Any questions, council? All right, seeing none, then on to general business. Would anybody have anything to bring up under general business at the time? Including staff, if you have anything, if you want. Nobody has anything? All right. There's no closed motion this time, and there's no notices of motion that I'm aware of. I'll ask the clerk then to read our bylaws then, please.
Being a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood and Dr. Brendan Keogh to provide financial support to carry on a family medicine practice in the Township of Asphodel-Norwood, be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2022-12.
Motion by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next bylaw.
Being a bylaw to adopt the estimates for the sums required during the year 2022 for municipal purposes and to establish rates of taxation to be levied during the year 2022 and to provide for penalty and interest in the Township of Asphodel-Norwood, to be read a first, second, and third time, and numbered bylaw 2022-14.
Thank you. Motion by Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor Ward. Any other discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So then that leaves us with the confirming bylaw, please.
Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held April 12, 2022, be read a first, second, third time, and numbered bylaw 2022-15.
Motion by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor Ward. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. You see your future meeting schedule before you. And then on to adjournment then. So the recommendation for adjournment would, on today's meeting, April 12th, 2022, be adjourned at 2:02 p.m. And our next regular meeting of April 26th, hopefully in person, I guess, would be at 1 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Motion by Deputy Mayor Burt, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that's carried. Well, thank you very much, Council. And it was, we went through a lot of material fairly quickly, but that's the nice thing about being prepared with your agenda and having an agenda put before us that's easy to read. So thank you very much to all, and Council, good job as usual. And everyone have a good afternoon. Thank you.